Hi, everyone. My name is Dennis Brown, and I want to welcome you back to my weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp live training. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm your host, Dennis Brown, and today we have a special interview. I've got a guest I'm going to introduce to you here in a minute, and I think you're going to be really excited because the topic that we're going to talk about is how any carrier can add $5,000 to $10,000 a month in profit to their bottom line without buying more trucks. So if you're a carrier or an owner operator, or you're thinking about adding equipment, or you're thinking about getting your carrier authority and you're not sure which way to go, carrier, broker, both, you definitely want to tune in today, okay? Because I have a special guest I want to share with you. He's a student of Freight Broker Bootcamp, of course, because I highlight a lot of my students in this on these lives. But before we do that, give me a quick shout out here in the chat box and let me know where you guys are logging in from. I'll try to give you a shout back. While we're doing this, I'm going to give you the quick agenda. Today, we are going to do the live interview, okay? And then after that, I have a special announcement. It's a huge announcement. You guys are going to be the first to hear about this new announcement, this new feature for Freight Broker Bootcamp that you're definitely not going to want to miss. I've had hundreds of people ask me for this feature, and it's launching, but you got to stick around for the announcement. Then we're going to do a free giveaway. Okay, we got a busy freaking day. Then we're going to give a free giveaway of the Freightpreneur t-shirt. Someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. The coveted Freightpreneur t-shirt that everybody begs me for, that you can't buy anywhere. I just give them away, okay? So, and then from there, we're going to do live Q&A. So if you stick around to the end, you'll be able to ask my guests or myself or both of us questions about the topic we're talking about today, or just in general, anything about starting and growing a successful freight broker business. So let me give some shout outs before I bring up my guest. Welcome to, somebody knows it's my anniversary. Yeah, 18 years with my wife, married 25 together. So yeah, we've been together a long time. Nelson Sanchez, welcome from Florida. Welcome, Jomo from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thank you. Welcome, Army Co. from Cove Springs, Florida. Welcome, Eric Vall from Santa Clarita, California. Welcome, Joaquin Gutierrez from South Texas. Patty Beiser. Welcome, Oaser DM from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Patty Beyer from Atlanta. Eddie from North Alabama. Finish Line Logistics from Sacramento. Tatiana from Palmdale. Michael from Fort Lauderdale, Paul from Glendale, Renee Young from Jacksonville, Paul W. from Southern Maryland. Welcome, Alexis Smith from Atlanta, Georgia, Amrit from Toronto, Ontario. You're going to want to pay attention if you're from Canada, because my guest is actually from Canada, okay? So he's Canadian, and that's another reason why I had him on today. Julianka Jackson from Memphis, Joe Hadlock from Akron, Ohio. Cindy Kane. Have I missed you, Cindy? I haven't seen you on here in a while. Maybe I'm wrong. From Houston, Texas. Cynthia Moore from Maryland. Hello. Tax Service from Arizona. The Looney family from Miami, Florida. Man, we're like kindred spirits because I have a Looney family. Indy. Indy from Virginia. And Raymond from South Carolina. Sugu Logistics from Ontario, Canada. Again, this gentleman that I'm going to be sharing with you here shortly, interviewing and asking questions, he's from Canada, so you're going to want to tune in here. Welcome, Danny from Illinois, Tiffany from Dallas, Terry Dixon from Jackson, Florida, SS Twan from St. Louis, Missouri, Philip from Richmond. Thank you guys so much for being here. If I don't get you this week in a shout out, please come back next week. I apologize. I really want to dig in here to this episode of Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. As you know, we do this every Monday live at noon, and I stream it not only on Facebook, but on YouTube. So you guys can catch it streaming either of those locations weekly. And again, the agenda, we're going to do the live, then we're going to do a special announcement that you don't want to miss. Then I'm going to do the free shirt giveaway, and then we're going to do the Q&A. But if you want to be a part, if you want a chance to win the Freightpreneur shirt, okay, here's all you have to do, but you got to do it right now, okay? All you got to do is share the stream. I don't care where you're at. Click the share. Well, first like the stream, and then click share, and then share it on one of your social channels, and then come back in, and in the comments, I want you to type hashtag shared in the comments. What that's going to do is allow me to know that you shared it. Now, this is an honor system. So I'm going to trust that you're actually sharing the stream on social, whether it be on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or wherever you're sharing it. Okay. Share the stream with your audience and let them know about these Freight Broker Bootcamp lives. I'm going to pick one person that's going to get this shirt after, a little bit later on in the episode. You do have to be live in order to get the prize. But again, I'm going to send you the Freightpreneur t-shirt, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. This is US only. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't ship this overseas. It just doesn't make sense to send a $25 shirt and spend $50 on shipping. So US only for the giveaway. I appreciate all you guys being here. Make sure you like, comment, and share if you want a chance to win this at the end. Okay. All right. So today I want to introduce you to a guest. There he is. Awesome. He is here. I'm going to unmute him. So this gentleman, his name is Tej Sethi, as you can see on the screen. He's from Canada. He's a student of Freight Broker Bootcamp. He owns a carrier company. And now, since taking Freight Broker Bootcamp and deciding to go out on his own, he now has his own brokerage. And he's here today to share with us a little bit about his journey and some of the success he's had, some of the ups and downs. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, Dennis. How's it going?
Yeah, thank you for being here. I know that I have these interviews, from time to time with past students, and some of these students have done tens of thousands of dollars a month in profit, and some are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in profit. But none of them that I can recall actually that I've interviewed in the recent past actually have a carrier company and a brokerage at the same time. And none of them have been from Canada. So that's why I wanted to have you on, because you're different. You're a little bit different. You've got a little bit different background. You got a little bit different story. And I think the audience is going to definitely be inspired by having some of the feedback and some of the lessons you've learned along the way. So give us a quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of how you stumbled into this brokerage business and the asset-based business, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so started the carrier business around about 6 years ago now, 5 to 6 years. As things progressed, kind of just felt like, okay, you know what, the next best step would be to get into the brokerage side. We found that with the carrier side, there is a lot more risk involved. Capital that you have to put up front is a lot higher. And with the brokerage, you don't have all of that. So that, just felt like a natural step for me to take. And here I am.
So how many trucks do you have?
So right now we have 6 trucks. That's a mixture of our trucks as well as owner-operators.
And so you specialize in flatbed, I think you said.
Correct.
Yeah, so your asset base focuses on flatbed. You've got 6 trucks between your own and different owner-operators that you have leased on under you. And when did you launch the carrier company?
Carrier company, we launched, actually that was 2017. So at first I bought a couple of trucks and leased them out to another carrier company. Found that wasn't working. Then in 2017, beginning of 2017, that's when I got my authorities and started operating.
And that was all operating in Canada with your asset-based side?
Canada and the U.S.
Canada and the U.S.
We go cross-border, yeah.
Gotcha, okay. And then when did you decide to open the brokerage division, the brokerage side of your business?
The brokerage, thought of that I'd say in the beginning to mid 2020. I was also working full time, so my background is construction management. So I was at a point where I kind of wanted to leave my job and just focus on the carrier company full time. But in order to make more money, I would have had to put in a lot more funds in, right? A lot more capital. Just hiring new people. Even if I took an owner operators, I still would have had to purchase trailers, flatbed trailers, and they're not cheap. So I was looking into alternatives, like how can I generate a bit more money without putting all that upfront capital in and reducing the risk. So I looked into the brokerage side and thought, let's give that a shot.
Yeah. So let me ask you something, just ballpark estimate, how much capital do you think you have tied up in your asset-based side, in your carrier side? I mean, total cash put in, invested.
Originally, when we started off, the bought 2 trucks, so $165,000 each, Canadian. And now trailers, we run Conestogas, and
which are
right now,
expensive.
yeah, they go for around 80,000 Canadian, brand new. Even used, you get a full aluminum, you're still paying 50, 60,000 for like one that's 2, 3 years old.
How many trailers do you have?
6.
So is it fair to say you probably got $500,000 tied up in the asset base side?
Yep.
Okay, so you got $500,000 tied up in your asset base side, and it's producing profit. It's generating profit. It's a profitable entity.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
you wanted to expand that profit. You wanted to continue to grow without having to put another 50, 80, 100,000 or more in to expand that revenue.
That's right.
So what you decided to do was to look into the brokerage side and see how this would all work, how it could work together. So you went out, got your brokerage authority, and I think you got that. What'd you get that? Like mid last year, like
Yeah,
July, August.
it got that in July 2020,
Okay,
June, July
okay.
2020.
So last summer, about a year ago.
Yeah.
And then you dug into the brokerage and started selling brokerage just like everybody else.
Yeah. So started off. So I left my job in mid-August last year. Uh, you know, for the first month and a half, didn't really have many customers. I had one customer that I wasn't generating much profit on, but it was kind of just to get my feet wet and kind of just get the ball rolling a bit. And then I'd say I then started generating a profit from a couple of customers. I'd say like a month and a half into it. You could say end of September, October time.
And so since then, you don't have a job anymore. You're running your carrier business. That was starting like August last year. You're running your carrier business and you're running your brokerage.
Yep.
And in August, a year later, which is this past August, just this last month, because as of today, just so everybody knows when we're recording this, it's September 27th, which is my anniversary, which is kind of beside the point. But ultimately, it is my anniversary, my wedding anniversary. And so it was about a year ago. So in this August, just last month, how much did you do in profit this past August?
So in August, did 7,000.
$7,000 in profit. Now here, guys, let me ask you, how many of you in the audience right now listening to this, whether you're on live or you're catching this as a replay, how many of you would like to add an extra 7,000 in profit to your existing carrier business? I can almost guarantee you it's 100%. If you're an owner operator or whether you got a small fleet or whatever the case may be, I can almost guarantee it's 100%. And he did that without a ton of risk, without a ton of capital outlay, right? And so what I've said for years, and one of the primary reasons why I wanted to have Tej on here was the fact that he's running a carrier business, but he doesn't want to assume a lot more risk to expand the revenue. And so he started the brokerage and now he's making an extra 7,000 in profit. Now, is there any doubt in your mind, Tej, at this point that a year from now, you're probably going to be doing at least double or triple what you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. Like, even now I've seen every month, things really started to pick up in January, February of this year. And every month it's just been getting better and better. So yeah, for sure, I think this time next year, it'll be much better. I'm also taking on a couple of agents. So that should start bringing in some. So yeah, in a year to 2 years time, I'm hoping 3 to 4 times more than what I'm doing right now.
Exactly, and that's my point. And your outlay was really minimal from the perspective of setting up the brokerage, right? Now,
Yeah.
when you in your brokerage, what's your niche there? I think you said you do flatbed as well there.
Flatbed, yeah. So I would say 85% of our stuff is flatbed. Some of our customers, they do on the odd occasion require a dry van and stuff, so I take care of that for them. But most of it's all flatbed.
Yeah, so you're smart. You niche down, and not only did you niche down into something that you already know, right? You
Yeah.
already had experience running a profitable asset-based business on the flatbed side. So you understand the nuances of what flatbed freight requires from a service level. And I
Yeah.
think that makes, and you also know who the players are, right? You know who's shipping that stuff. So I think that helps a lot. So that's smart. So let me ask you this. It's been a year since you've been running your brokerage and it's been a slow grow, but now it's really starting to get some momentum. If there was one thing you would do different, right? If there's one thing you would do different since starting your brokerage, listen, we can nitpick. There's a million things that I've done wrong, and I've made millions of dollars worth of mistakes. So don't take this the wrong way. What would be the one thing you would do different if you could start back at square one with the brokerage side?
But with the brokerage side, I'd say, especially at the beginning, getting on the phone all the time, right? I found it very difficult to sit there all day making these phone calls and stuff. So it does get disheartening. So you just have to remember, don't get disheartened. You will get a ton of rejections, but just keep at the phones. And there was a time where I was kind of not making as many calls as I should have. And then as time went on by, I was like, okay, this isn't gonna work. I need to step it up, make a ton more phone calls. So I think that was a mistake that I made at the beginning, and that's why I think maybe I didn't get as much work or customers in the first few months. So I'd say that.
Yeah, I think that's an important one. Let's not gloss over that one, right? So here's the thing. Starting a freight brokerage or becoming a freight agent is not some, something magical where if you just set it up, people are going to come to you. If you build it, they will not come. Okay. You have to actually, it's not like setting up a coffee shop on a busy corner where you're going to get foot traffic where people are just going to come in and start buying coffee from you, right? That's not how brokerage is. You're going to have to do outreach. You're going to have to be very proactive in doing that outreach. And so one of the things, just like you struggled with, which is dedicating enough time to filling your funnel, right? You've got to fill that funnel. Everybody knows the sales funnel, right? It goes like this. You got to fill it up at the top, and it's really wide at the top, and you put a whole bunch in at the top, and then at the bottom trickles out a few customers. But here's the good news about that trickle of customers. You don't need hundreds of customers in order to have a highly profitable freight brokerage, right? You've heard other students, past students on here, as well as Tesh, they're telling you a small handful of customers can make you six figures or more, right? And, and you're talking about a very little risk. So you've got to dedicate time to focus on doing your outreach. Now, I teach things like LinkedIn, using LinkedIn and social selling. I teach how to do cold email, cold calling, face-to-face. I mean, there's all kinds of sales training that I've done over the years. And so I don't know exactly how you're doing. It sounds to me like you're mainly doing cold calling, which is great. It still works. Tell us a little bit about how you did get some of those first customers. Well, that's a good lead in for that.
Yeah. So at the beginning, most of it was, I would say all of my customers, my regular customers have been through cold calling. I would say more recently, in the past couple of months, I have been utilizing LinkedIn more. I have the LinkedIn Sales Navigator subscription, so using that. But still, I'd say mostly it's still mostly cold calling.
Yeah, so it's a contact sport. So that means you got to pick up the phone, you got to make contacts. I'm going to tell you right now, if anybody's listening to this and you think you're going to start a freight brokerage and make any money and you're not going to be able to have to pick up the phone and make cold calls or send out emails or do outreach via LinkedIn or go press the flesh live, in your local market, you're delusional. It's just not going to happen. Okay. And referrals are great, but it's not going to be enough to get you to where you need to go. Okay. So, I mean, he just told you that was one of the things he would change. That's the biggest thing he would change in his business is he would dedicate more time to doing that outreach and that customer interfacing. Okay. Because had he done that, we don't know where he'd be today. If he doubled the amount of input at the beginning for the first 6 months, would his profit have doubled? I don't know. Maybe not, but we don't know. So if you're just looking to start a freight brokerage, heed the warning and listen to what he's saying, because again, I can tell you that 8 out of 10 brokers that I would have on here would have that exact same sentiment. They would say, I wish I made more cold calls. I wish I dedicated more time to sales. So, all right. So tell us a little bit, tell us what's something that happened on your brokerage journey that maybe you didn't expect, right? Something that you were like, well, I think I kind of had it all figured out, but something happened along the way that kind of derailed you a little bit and you're like, oh my God, I didn't even think of this. How did this happen? And because listen, this is logistics. We all know it's held together with baling twine and bubble gum, right? It's a very dynamic market. So tell us a little bit about something like that happened to you.
Yeah, like I'm just trying to think. Yeah, so just a few months ago, back in June, so everything was going steady. Then all of a sudden, in June, sales kind of dropped for us, and I was kind of like, what's going on here? Now, because we do flatbed work, majority of my customers, the type of products that they manufacture and supply, uh, their production had slowed down just because there was a shortage of raw material, and they couldn't get stuff in. Even to the extent where lumber rates were high and there wasn't enough lumber, they didn't even have enough skids. So, that was kind of unexpected. I didn't expect that to happen. And maybe if I had kind of diversified into different types of products, I could have still kept things kind of stable that month, revenue wise. So
No, I
yeah,
think
that was
that's
kind of
important. That's an
unforeseen.
important lesson. And here's what it is, guys. As a startup, your first customer is always your first customer. And then you get your second customer, your third customer, your fourth customer, and your fifth customer. And what you're going to find is after you get a handful of customers, you're going to get real busy moving freight. And that's a high quality problem because you're making money. When you need to service your customers and you're moving loads, you're making money. Here's the problem, though. The problem is that you dedicate less and less time to growing your customer database, right? So having 5 customers is great. And I'm just picking a random number. I don't know how many customers you have, Tej, but let's assume you have 5 customers. If you want to diversify the risk, the best way to do that is to add customers. And you don't even necessarily need to add customers in different niches, right? Maybe having different products or different
Yeah.
different types of products that are shipping on the same type in the same type of niche, because not everything that goes on a Conestoga trailer is X, right? It can be a variety of different types of products. But the point is that you have to diversify your business. And as a startup, it's not uncommon for 60 or 70% of your business to be done by 2 or 3 of your customers, right? It's not uncommon. But when I built my brokerage, that was one of my biggest fears. One of my biggest fears was being too beholden to 1 or 2 big shippers,
Mhm.
and that they would control my destiny. And so I took what I call the mutual fund approach. And what I mean by that is just like mutual funds, rather than investing in a single stock like Tesla or Apple or IBM or whatever stock, where you've got all the risk of that one company, you invest in a mutual fund that has hundreds of different companies that they've invested in. And so you blend your risk. And so I took the approach of having lots of customers as opposed to just a few big customers. And when I sold the company in 2016, in 2015, we did 80 million in revenue. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I can tell you that the largest customer we had at that point, the largest shipper that we had, I think only did 7 or 8% of our total revenue. So what that allowed me to do is to sleep every night, because what I knew is if that customer, for whatever reason, we lost that customer, the business wasn't going to fold, payroll was still going to get made, I wasn't going to lose my house, right? I wasn't going to lose my life savings or the business, because I had diversified that risk by adding more customers and taking that mutual fund type of approach. But you'll be shocked how many small brokers who start up and start getting busy on the operations side that don't continue to prospect. So my warning to you and to everybody out there is always make time to prospect, no matter how busy you are. If you start getting too busy moving loads to prospect, then you need to hire somebody to help you move those loads so that you can then continue to prospect, because that's the highest value time. That's the role that pays the absolute highest, right? Is actually getting shippers. It's not moving the freight. Dispatching is pretty easy. Sourcing trucks is fairly easy. Negotiating with carriers isn't that bad. But finding shippers is that high value activity that no brokerage can do without. So pretty easy to hire the dispatch side, a lot harder to hire the sales side. So no, I think that makes total sense. Well, listen, is there anything else you want to share with the audience about your journey? Maybe something that you wish you knew, or that you'd like to impart on them, and then we're going to move into the giveaway and some Q&A.
Yeah, from from just doing the brokerage side just for for a year. I wish I knew about this way before starting a carrier company. Um, if I if I'd known more about the brokerage side, I definitely wouldn't have started a carrier company. I would have gone straight into this. So, I know there's people out there who are thinking of starting a carrier company with their brokerage and so on. My advice would be not to. Just focus on the brokerage. It's way less risk, way less hassle. You know what your outgoings are monthly. Whereas with the trucking industry, it's always up and down, right? It's so volatile. There's so many variables.
Yeah. And I think that's important that you said that. And I appreciate that because, while the world needs carriers, we need asset-based carriers and we need drivers. And those are very, very important roles because without those, brokers can do nothing. But I have a lot of students of Freight Broker Bootcamp who start as, who want to start a freight brokerage. And then almost immediately afterwards, right, they say, hey, I want to buy some trucks. And my caution to them is always the same. Be very careful about starting an asset-based carrier side unless you have a ton of experience and capital to do it, because the risk is much, much higher. And it's way harder to make money as a carrier because you just heard Tej tell you that the variables like maintenance on a truck and fuel prices and insurance prices and driver turnover and all the different stuff that happens to a carrier, those variables are very hard to manage. So if you're just starting out as a broker and you're just getting started, or maybe you're starting to get a little bit of traction, don't put the cart before the horse. You don't always need trucks, right? You don't always need trucks to make money. I did over $200 million as a freight broker and I never owned a truck, just so you know. And you just heard Tej say that if he knew about brokerage before he started his carrier business, he may not have even invested in those trucks and he probably would have just pursued the carrier side. So, well, listen, I really appreciate you being here. Congrats on all your success. I'm super excited for you. And I'd love to have you back on here maybe in a year and see how things are going and how you've progressed and what you've learned. You can share that with the audience. So why don't we, just so you guys know, if you guys are curious about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, you've been watching on YouTube or trying to Google some different information about how do I become a freight broker or freight agent, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We've trained over 10,000 students, been in business over a decade. We have a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. And Tej is a perfect example of someone who's used the tools of Freight Broker Bootcamp to help him start and grow his business. Again, it's not a cure-all. It's not a push button, hey, get rich quick deal, but it's a tool. That's what Freight Broker Bootcamp is. That's the way I like to describe it. It's a training and online tools and assets that'll help you compress your time, save you time, and save you a lot of money and lessons that you would have learned, through the school of hard knocks. So I want to thank you so much for being here, being live on this interview. Why don't we do the special announcement? So the special announcement. Now I have to be honest with you guys. You are going to be the second group of people to hear about this because Tej was the first. Okay. I shared with him this announcement that I've been thinking about for a couple of years now. And I finally decided to launch. So here we go, guys. Here's what you've got. I have just launched the Freight Broker Bootcamp audio experience podcast. So what that means, podcast, just so you guys know, that's audio only. Now we have the blog and we've got YouTube channel, but we've just launched the Freight Broker Bootcamp audio experience. And I'm going to put the banner up here real quick so you guys can see where it's at. If you go to if you go to podcast, okay. So if you go to podcast, this is at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/podcast, you can check out the audio only version. Now, the advantage to having the Freight Broker Bootcamp podcast is that, if you're walking the dog or you're working out on the treadmill or you're a truck driver and you're driving in a truck and you can't sit there and watch YouTube because it doesn't make sense and it's really freaking dangerous. You can just put the audio in and you can consume all of my best of the best content. I'm going to be publishing 2 new episodes a week. Okay. So we're going to be doing 2 new episodes a week. And I'm going to pull from all the different things I'm doing. I'm going to pull from different YouTube videos. I'm going to pull from webinars I do. I'm going to pull from private trainings I do and coachings with different students, from interviews like this. And I'm going to put the best of the best of the best content there for you guys to learn how to launch and grow a successful freight broker or freight agency business. So that's the podcast. So you guys can check that out again, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/podcast. It's 100% free. Okay. It's 100% free. You'll hear more about it as things start to progress. But you are literally the first group outside of Tesh to hear this, to hear the announcement that I've launched this podcast. I'm super excited about it. I've had other podcasts, my Growth Experts podcast, for several years, but I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think you guys are going to get a lot of value. And, I've had hundreds of people over the last few years ask me to do audio only format training. And so here you go. You asked for it. Now you got it. Okay. So thank you for that. Now, for those of you that want to win this shirt, I'm going to give you another minute to like this stream. First, you got to like the stream, and then you got to click share. Then you got to share the stream. I don't care. Share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram, share it on Twitter, share it on YouTube. I don't care where you share it. You got to share the stream, and then come back in and type #shared in the comments. And that's going to let me know that you actually shared the stream. Okay. Now, after that, we're going to do Q&A, but hold on to your questions until we're done with the giveaway. Otherwise, your question is going to get buried in the comments. I'm never going to see it. Okay. So you got a minute here, and then I'm going to give this shirt away. Again, Freightpreneur, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. I'm going to give this away to one lucky listener, one lucky viewer. And again, this is US only for the free giveaway, just because of the shipping. It just doesn't make sense, and it's too big of a hassle to try to ship to God knows where. We have people, we're very fortunate. I have people listening to this in the Middle East, in India, in Australia, in the UK, in the Ukraine, in South America, in Central America. It's crazy where
Canada.
We're in Canada, where people tune in. It kind of blows my mind where people, Africa, all over the place, people tune into these lives and to the YouTube channel. And I'm grateful for that. I'm truly appreciative. So this is just a small token of my appreciation for everybody who does join in. So make sure you share the stream. And in about 1 minute, we're going to give away, in the next 30 seconds, we're going to give away the shirt. And then from there, just so you guys know, we're going to go into the live Q&A. So hang tight with me for another minute or two. And then you can ask Taj or myself any questions you have about starting, growing, launching a successful freight broker business. And we will do our absolute best to try to get to as many of those questions as we can. Okay. All right. So we got a bunch of people sharing it. All right. Sweet. All right. Cool. All right. So you got 10 more seconds. Share the stream, come back in, type #shared, and then I'm going to give it away. And again, if you don't win this week, don't worry. I give these away all the time. I give them away almost every week. Sometimes I don't give them away when I do the interviews because it sometimes kind of disrupts the flow, but I hadn't given one away in a couple weeks. So here we go. Hope you guys enjoy it. I know there's probably a bunch of people listening right now who have already won. So, all right, cool. So let's do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll to the section where all the shares are. And then I am going to randomly pick one. I'm going to close my eyes. Let me pull it up. All right, cool. So I'm going to scroll. I'm going to randomly pick one, and then that's going to be the winner. Here we are. The winner is Natasha Eileen. Natasha Eileen, you are the winner of the Freightpreneur t-shirt. Thank you so much for playing along. Everybody, thank you for sharing. Thank you for playing along. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for being here on this Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Natasha, here's all you got to do to collect your prize and to get this shirt. I'll ship it out to you this week, but I need you to go to the Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page. Go to the Facebook page for Freight Broker Bootcamp. You're probably going to have to like the page, but you'll ultimately just send me a message through Messenger with your full name, your address, and the size and your phone number, so that from a tracking perspective, we can get this thing sent out. Again, your full name, your address, the size you want, and your phone number for tracking. Again, this is just to give you a sense. This is a large. I'm about 195 pounds, 198 pounds. So sizes are pretty true. Okay. So, it's all unisex sizing. So if you're a female, which Natasha, if you appear to be through your picture, then just size accordingly, right? Whether it be small, medium, large, give me a heads up as to what size you want. and I will mail that out to you this week, and you'll get it here sometime in the next week or two. And thank you for playing along. All right, guys. So why don't we do some Q&A? Let's do some Q&A. So if you have questions for Tej or for myself or for both of us, let us know. Type in the chat box. Let us know the question. Now, obviously, these questions have got to be about freight brokerage, freight agency, startup, that sort of stuff. I mean, if you focus the questions in and around there, if you have a specific question you want to ask Tej, address it to him. If you have something you want to ask me, address it to me, or you can just put it down there. Maybe we'll both answer the question. Okay. All right. So here we got some questions. All right. So here we go. Tej, how do you keep track of your cold calls software, and how many calls were you making at the beginning? From Eric Vall.
So with the calls, so I use ITS Dispatch, and on there they have a sales manager component. So basically, just keeping a track. I put in all the prospects that I've called, and then you can just log in, the conversation that you've had with them. And then even with follow-ups, you can then go back in there and put in notes for the follow-ups. So everything's all on there. So it's basically like a CRM system within the dispatch software.
Yeah, I like that. So how many calls were you making when you first started? You admittedly said you should have made more, but how many were you started? How many were you making when you first started?
So at the beginning, because I wasn't moving many loads, I was probably making around about 30 calls a day. So I'd say about 30. Then that kind of like in the past few months has kind of dwindled off a bit, just because now I do have loads to move. But yeah, I'd say at the beginning I was doing around about 30. Should have been doing, I would say, at least 50 to 60 good quality calls, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that makes total sense. I would agree with you. I think you should be focusing on making 50 good quality calls per day. That means you've already maybe qualified who they're in your niche. You've kind of qualified them from some level, whether it be revenue or type of company or geography or your niche. And then from there, you're doing outreach, whether it be cold calling, cold emailing, through LinkedIn, or a combination of all of those things. I teach in my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program, which is closed right now. It's sold out, but I'm planning on reopening soon. I teach a multi-touch point approach, meaning it's not just all calls, it's not just all email, it's not just all social media, but I teach a sales cadence on how to build a sales cadence around all of those different channels. And what it does is it doubles or triples your contacts. It doubles or triples the ratio of contacts that you get for your efforts, right? Because this is a contact sport. We got to get people on the phone. The hardest part is getting their attention. And so that's why I teach that approach. So and if you guys, for any of you guys that I haven't really talked about this much, but if anybody wants to be a part of the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, I'm going to be relaunching it in October. I don't know the dates yet, and it's going to be limited to a small group of people, less than 100, probably 100 or less. You can hit me up in the chat box here. Hit me up in the chat box and let me know, and I'll have somebody send you a link where you can opt in to get to get on the wait list, because it's a wait list only type of event. You have to be on the wait list to get notified. So I would definitely recommend you guys do that. So hit me up with Freight Broker Sales Accelerator in the comments below, and I'll make sure we have send you over a link where you guys can get on the wait list. All right, good question. Good start. Thanks, Eric. All right, so here's a question. What do you think about working as an agent while having your own brokerage firm? Okay. I'll take this, and then Tej, you can add in whatever thoughts you want at the end here. So working as an agent, having your own brokerage. Okay. All right. So if you have your own brokerage authority and you think you need to start as an agent to get some experience, or maybe you don't have the cash flow, or maybe you don't have whatever reason, I'm not quite sure. You want to start as an agent or have your broker authority. Me personally, I'll just tell you my personal opinion. My personal opinion is if you're going to be an agent, you don't need your broker authority. You definitely don't need your broker authority at all. And it's probably just depending upon your position financially, it's probably just a drain of capital. The only advantage potentially is that your broker authority MC number is going to be aged. So if you work as an agent for a year, your MC number will be aged for a year, but you're not going to build credit on your MC number on your brokerage until you start moving freight under your own MC. So I don't see a huge advantage in doing that. What I would suggest if you're starting out as an agent, just focus on building your customer database, focus on building your database, focus on growing your profits, focus on saving that money or reinvesting it in the business to a point where you are comfortable that you can break out on your own if you choose to do that. I had lots of agents who told me, yeah, I'm going to be an agent for you. And then, a year or two out, we're going to open our own brokerage. And then what they realized is a year or two out, they didn't want to open their own brokerage. They just wanted to be an agent because they didn't have to worry about all the back end risk associated with that. They didn't want to have to worry about billing and collections and insurance and technology. They just wanted to focus on supporting their customers, and we paid them a big commission. So they stayed agents because it was easier, right? And it was just less hassle. So me personally, I don't think having your brokerage authority is going to give you any advantage in being an agent. And you actually may run into a little bit of backlash from the brokerage itself if you have your own broker authority, because they may be concerned about you, doing, kind of behind the scenes deals with carriers and shippers. There may be some questions there, or it may cause some sort of a red flag, but that's just my 2 cents. Did you have anything to add on that, Tej, or any thoughts on that?
No, I think what you just said there, it's correct. Like when I started off, I just went straight into the brokerage side. I didn't really look into the agent side.
Yeah.
But for sure, just the whole back office stuff, the invoicing and paying carriers and stuff, it's time consuming, right? So if you're an agent, your focus would just be sales, and you can make good money on that, right?
You make a ton of money.
Yeah, less risk, and you don't have to deal with all of those other.
Yeah, just so you know, this is going to blow your guys' mind. You may not have heard this story, but I've had agents that I've paid $100,000 in commission in 1 month. I've had agents that work for me that made $100,000 in 1 month as an agent. They had no risk on the brokerage side. They didn't do any of the back office. They had nothing. They made $100,000 in commission 1 month. Now, that's not the norm, and I'm not promising that, okay? But what I'm promising you is that it's very lucrative if you're a good agent,
Yep.
right? It's very lucrative, and it's a lot less risk, and it's a lot less time consuming, okay? So, yeah, that's my sense on that. That's my 2 cents. All right, so let's see what we got. All right, so here's a question for Tej. My question is, being in Canada, are you targeting shippers in Canada or US? If Canada, do you use the same formula? Do you have additional documentation for Canadian shippers? Take it away, Tej.
Yeah, so our brokerage, we are licensed and authorized to move freight in the US as well. But to start off with, I did concentrate on shippers just mainly in Canada, mostly in Ontario. Otherwise, just keep it close to home, and then kind of branch out. So, so basically dealt with Canada. I am now branching out and looking at customers and stuff in the US. Documentation wise, it's the same. So our customer packet is exactly the same as what I would provide to prospects in the US. So the good thing with Canada is you don't actually need for a freight broker. There's less requirements for licensing and so on than the US. So yeah, documentation just stays the same.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that, guys. I think he's the guy who's done it. That's part of the reason why I had him on here, because I have a lot of people from Canada who inquire about, can I be a broker in Canada? Can I move freight in the US? Do I only move freight in Canada? How do I do this? How do I do that? And that's why I wanted to have Tej on. So if you are from Canada and you have questions specific to Canada, ask away, because he's the guy that's living it, doing it every day. All right. Okay, so how do we find drayage carriers for a drayage contract? Well, I'm assuming it's going to be power only, probably, right? It's probably going to be power only. So the number one source you're going to find is you're going to go to the load boards and you're going to search for power only equipment, power only carriers, right? Because chances are that's probably what you're doing is power only. That's And if it's otherwise, then you're going to want to just use the load boards to try to search that type of equipment and those types of carriers. Now, if there's other requirements, then it's the same thing. Just whatever type of equipment that you're looking for, the starting point is always going to be the load boards, internet truck stop, DAT, or maybe there's some specialized load boards that are specific to drayage only, or you know what I mean? I would look for a load board that's specific to that. So, I mean, that would be the best place to start. And then when you do develop relationships with a few of those carriers, ask them if they know other carriers that also specialize in drayage, because drivers all know each other. Owner operators, they all know each other. They all hang in the same circles. They're all on the same docks. They go to the same restaurants. They stay at the same truck stops, right? They all know each other, right? And they've all worked with different carriers over the past, and they probably know other people. So I would say getting referrals from carriers would be another good source of people specific to that equipment or that type of a niche. So that would be where I would go. Tez, do you have anything to add to that?
Exactly what you just said. Just go on the load boards. I haven't dealt with drayage or anything like that. Haven't had to use power only. But yeah, and then once you do find 2 or 3 carriers that have enough trucks, you could just continuously just use them, right? Just if it's regular work, you could just use the same guys. Just build that relationship with them.
Perfect. Good question. Thank you from the Looney family. All right, here's a question for you, I assume, from Clint Sawyer. Did you already have business credit before starting your brokerage side, or did you use your assets to gain customers' business? Fire away.
Yeah, so the brokerage is a completely separate corporation, so we didn't have any credit. So basically, they looked at my personal credit. In some instances, like for example, setting up an account with a factoring company, because we already had a relationship with them through the carrier company, they kind of looked at the carrier company. But as far as the insurances and so on, they looked at my personal credit. So it was pretty much brand new in most cases. Even credit cards and stuff, and so on, it was all looking at my personal credit.
And as for gaining customers with your assets, I think you told me in the pre-interview, most of your customers on the carrier side are brokers. So you're really not doing business with them on the brokerage side, because they were already brokers. So you're mainly you were dealing with brokers on the carrier side, but now you're going shipper direct on the brokerage side.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So he hasn't used his his assets too much to really gain customers, right? Because again, they're two separate businesses, but that can play a little bit of a role. But I think it's a misnomer. I think people think that if I'm a broker, I need trucks. And we kind of started out with that. And that is, they think they need trucks in order to get customers, because they'll hear the objection sometimes, we only use asset-based brokers. That's not the truth. Okay, just first of all, just so you understand, when shippers say that, 99% of the time, it's not the truth. You know what it is? It's just a way for them to stall you and to push you away and to create a barrier that they know you'll run from. Basically is what they say. Well, I don't have assets, so I don't qualify. The reality is they're doing business with brokers that don't have assets. C.H. Robinson doesn't have assets. Total Quality Logistics doesn't have assets. Coyote Logistics doesn't have that. Most of the companies out there, the big brokers out there, don't have assets. Just so you know, they don't have trucks. They're pure brokerage, and they're doing business with them. So they'll do business with you, but you have to give them a good reason to do business with you, and you have to dig in, and you can't just take the first objection and assume that when they say we don't do business with brokers, only asset based, that's the truth, because it's really not most of the time, at least in my experience. Okay, so you don't need assets in order to get brokerage customers. That's just the facts. All right. And so we already answered that one. Okay, so here's a question. Taj, what do you mean about using LinkedIn to find shippers? We also have a carrier business and looking to expand. Amber, good question, Amber. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing on LinkedIn, and then I'll add on to that based upon my own experience.
Yeah, so LinkedIn, I have the Sales Navigator add-on. It's
a subscription product where you get additional features and benefits. It's a paid product. You can use LinkedIn as a free tool, very similar.
Yeah, so on that, you can filter through. You can search profiles that have specific job titles or geographic area, um, and then you can just narrow it down, and then it just gives you a list of all these people, right? So you select all the job descriptions, like a shipping manager or something, or logistics manager, and so on. And then you just go through and just reach out to them directly. So either pick up the phone, call that company, and say, "Can I speak to John Smith?" And usually you'll get past the gatekeeper right away, because they think you know who John Smith is, like you have a relationship with this person already. Or you can send them a message on LinkedIn. So that's how I've been using LinkedIn mostly.
Yeah. And it's a good point. The two primary ways you just talked about. Number one, you can find, connect, and engage with your target market. That's what LinkedIn does. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional social network. Okay. So it's like Facebook, but for business, but it's a lot more, it's a lot less stupid, right? There's a lot less insanity on there. Even though I know I'm streaming this on Facebook right now, but the point is that LinkedIn is the largest community for businesses and entrepreneurs and marketers and salespeople and businesses in general. So you can find, connect, and engage with your audience. Personally, in my brokerage, I used LinkedIn to generate over $20 million in annual recurring revenue for my own brokerage. Okay. It was so successful that after I sold my brokerage, I consulted with a lot of people in the industry, in the brokerage industry, and just in B2B sales, and did a lot of consulting in and around that. So much so that I put a training course together for Bootcamp, which is my no cold calling for freight brokers sales system, my no cold calling for freight brokers program. And it teaches my whole LinkedIn and social selling system for generating leads and clients using LinkedIn. So you can use LinkedIn as a tool to do that, but you can also use LinkedIn as just a tool for gathering sales intelligence, gathering data on your prospects, and then picking up the phone and calling them. Right? Just like Tej just said, you can do outreach through the platform, and there's different strategies and tactics for doing that. You can also use it and sales intelligence is what's their name? What's their work experience? What type of groups do they belong to? Where did they work before? What college did they go to? What type of content are they engaging with? That's all on LinkedIn. And that builds a profile for you to help you differentiate yourself when you do your outreach. If you know somebody went to XYZ college and you have experience going to that college, or somebody that worked for XYZ company and that company, you can use that as a segue in your conversation to create and build rapport faster than just calling them up and saying, "Hey, my name's Dennis. I'm a broker and I want to move your freight," which is what everybody says and is boring and non-compelling and isn't different at all. So if you use that sales intelligence you can gather through LinkedIn, it'll be a valuable tool, as well as just the system in general for doing that. So so I hope that helps. Good point. And I'm glad to see you are using that, because I think it will help you make more contacts that are very difficult to reach sometimes just by using the phone.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. We're going to do a couple more questions, and we're going to wrap it up for today. Okay, so here's a question for you, Tej. In the process of filing for your brokerage authority, they're in the process. Tatiana's in the process of filing a brokerage authority, but we were thinking of also having a carrier authority under the same entity of our brokerage, but different MC numbers. Any problems with that? What was your experience there?
So I was advised. We have a safety and compliance company for our carrier side, and we were advised to keep them totally separate. And I'm, thankful that we did. So yeah, I'll just keep it totally independent from each other.
So you'll have a totally separate entity for your brokerage, a totally separate entity for your carrier business, which will both have separate MC numbers.
Yep.
And there's a lot of reason. Compliance is one of those things. Another thing is your insurance cost. It can have an impact on your insurance costs as a carrier if you have a brokerage division. Thirdly, if you ever want to sell one division or the other, it's very easy because they're separate entities. There's a lot of different reasons for that. Again, it's just subjective. You could do whatever you choose. But Tatiana, the most important thing I would suggest to you, if you don't already have your carrier authority and you're just starting your brokerage, focus on your brokerage. I mean, this is not just coming from me. This is coming directly from Tej. If you want to open your carrier business 6 months or a year or 2 years from now, after you've got a good footing on the brokerage side of the business, then have at it. I mean, that would be your choice. But I would never try to start them out together, number one. And I probably personally would never start the asset-based side for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't have any experience in running an asset-based side. I've only run brokerage, and they are very different. And it's a lot of risk. And you don't need to take that risk as a broker if you really don't want to. So anything to add to that?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, if at the beginning, if I'd known more about the brokerage side, I wouldn't have started the carrier side. The amount of capital you put into the carrier side, I would put that maybe into the brokerage, maybe even take on a salesperson or something, if you want to, rather than buy trucks.
Yep. There's different ways you can invest way less money to still get the same end result, which is revenue and profit. All right. Question from JT Tal, and that is, how do I turn a cold call into a warm call if the shifter doesn't give me a chance to turn it into a warm call? All right. So I'm going to lead off with this one. So here's the answer. You need to find your sales hook. So most shippers are used to getting a call from a broker that says, hi, my name is, I'm with XYZ. I was wondering if you have any flatbed freight that you need to move. This is just a generic, right? That's a very common framework for a cold call. So they've heard that hundreds of times. So you just, and hundreds of times they've told those people, no, I'm not interested. So when you say those words, or when you sound like that other salesperson, you get the same end result, which is no, or you get immediate rejection or negative, or they don't have time, or whatever the case may be. The secret is to be different. The secret is to sound different and to say different things. So rather than you calling up with that generic pitch, which is what most brokers are famous for, use sales intelligence from tools like LinkedIn and Google and their websites and different tools that you can access online, because you have the internet and you have access to all this information, and find something that makes you different, right? So let me give you an example. I'm going to give you an easy example. If I were calling up a prospect, I had his company name, I would find him on LinkedIn, I would gather I'd understand the geography where they were from, where they work, some of the groups they belong to. I'd look at their website. I'd look for press releases, recent updates in the news related to that company. And let's say, for example, I was reaching out to Joe Smith from XYZ Widgets, okay? And I noticed on their website that a few months ago, they had acquired another company. They had acquired another company, right? Another widgets company. And I saw that press release that talked about that acquisition. What I would probably do is I would use that information, that sales intelligence, to do my outreach, because it's very relevant, very contextual, and it's very different. So when I do the outreach, I might reference the fact that they acquired this new company, congratulations, and then frame it as such. Listen, it's my understanding, I've worked with companies like this in the past, and I know that whenever you do an acquisition, logistics is one of those complicated components for intertwining the two companies. And then, whatever the case may be, you're going to use that as your segue. You're going to use that as your hook. You're going to use that as the thing to differentiate yourself, right? So you're using sales intelligence as a way to differentiate yourself. So you have to find the hook. You have to find the sales hook. That's one of the primary things, and what's one of the primary lessons that I teach in my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. Because the key to success is not always being better. Different is better than better. If you're always trying to play the better game, better rates, better pricing, better technology, better customer service, those are all important things, but everybody's going to try to do that same thing. So you're all going to sound the same. It's just going to be noise. But if you try to be different, it's easy. It's easy to be different. And if you sound different, they're going to listen. And that's the biggest obstacle, is getting people to listen. The reason why they're not listening to you, JT, or others when you're trying to turn cold calls into warm calls, is because you sound just like everybody else. You got to be different, right? Different is better than better. So use sales intelligence to differentiate yourself and find out what your sales hook is. And if you guys are struggling with sales, okay, if you're struggling with the sales side of it, I'm going to be opening the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator at some point in October. And you guys want to get on the wait list for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, hit me up in the chat box. We'll send you a link where you can get on the wait list and you can participate, hopefully be one of the 100 that participates in that new cohort of Freight Broker Sales Accelerator students. Again, I don't take an unlimited number of students in that. I try to keep the group fairly small so that we can be very focused on helping them. It's a coaching and online training program that basically takes that piece of my brain, the Freight Broker Sales piece of my brain, and implants it into your brain over a 5-week period of time. So if you guys are curious about that, make sure you hit me up in the chat box and let me know, and we'll try to send you over some information. So listen, we're going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Most important, thank you very much for being here, Tej. I know you're a busy guy. I know you got an asset-based side you're running and the brokerage side, and you're trying to grow, and you got all this stuff going on. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Yep.
Congrats on all your success. I'm sure you're going to do great. Hit me up, here in the next few months. Keep me posted on how things are going. Maybe we'll have you back on here for an update in the next 6 to 12 months and see how things are going. For those of you that are curious about becoming a freight broker or freight agent, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. I can't tell you anything else other than the fact that I've trained over 10,000 students. You've seen the success from different students that have went on to do tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in business after taking the course. We offer a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. And that's it, man. So I hope you guys have an awesome day. I will do another live on every Monday. I don't know next week if it's going to be an interview or just a live training, but appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you like, comment, and share. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you next week.